All rise, veuillez vous lever. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Bonjour à tous à nouveau. Nous pouvons désormais passer aux arguments des parties sur le fond. Monsieur le procureur, vous avez la parole pour une heure aujourd'hui.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Your Honors. My name is Julian Nichols, and good afternoon to you and to my colleagues on the other side and to everybody in the courtroom. Your Honors, we're here today because the evidence shows, despite what we heard for the last 30 minutes before the break, that Mr. Duterte murdered thousands of his own people, Filipino men, women, and children. He was at the center of a common plan, which included the murder of alleged criminals throughout the Philippines. The plan was first implemented in Mr. Duterte's hometown of Davao. While mayor, he promised to clean up the city by killing alleged criminals. He kept that promise, and he murdered hundreds through so-called liquidation squads, death squads. These liquidation squads became notoriously known colloquially as the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. After years, 2 decades, of murdering alleged criminals as mayor of Davao, it became clear to him that this political strategy could be leveraged for higher office and for more power, the presidency. And that is exactly what he did. During his campaign to be president, Mr. Duterte expressly promised many times that he would kill criminals if elected. He claimed that Davao was Exhibit A in why he should be elected. And he promised, he pledged, that if he won, he would expand the killings nationwide. He won, and that is what he did. And as you will hear tomorrow from Mr. Jeremy and Ms. Croft, the murders skyrocketed in the months immediately after Mr. Duterte became president in June 2016. And that was no coincidence. That was him fulfilling his campaign pledge. As president, he murdered thousands using many of the same co-perpetrators and methods from his time as mayor of Davao. So he moved the method and some of the co-perpetrators to Manila in order to expand the crimes. The victims in this case ranged from powerful individuals to predominantly the poorest citizens of the Philippines. Now, why were the poor selected and victimized? Well, it was often because they were the most vulnerable, and they didn't have the families and the power to make police reports, and they were the most afraid. Mr. Duterte boasted about the killings that resulted in thousands of deaths at his order, and not once at any time has he shown any remorse. He promised also, you will hear, to take responsibility, personal responsibility, for the killings, if need be. Well, that time has come. We are confident that if your honors confirm the charges in this case, that we will prevail and Mr. Duterte will be convicted at trial. We talk a little bit about what my friend, one of the things he said during his 30 minutes. In our presentation today, you will hear Mr. Duterte, in his own words, calling for killings, bragging about killings, and as I said, vowing to take responsibility for those killings if necessary. And the defense, I have in my outline, may claim, but they already have, the defense claimed that this is hyperbole, bluster, exaggeration, part of his blunt or direct strongman political speech, which had brought him political success in Davao and then nationwide. And the defense will also point, Your Honors, to many instances where Mr. Duterte and his allies tried to build a veneer, a kind of fig leaf of plausible deniability by sprinkling in references to the effect that the police should only shoot to kill in self-defense. Those references to self-defense appear throughout Mr. Duterte's speeches. They're all over the place. We don't run away from that. We don't shy away from that. That's part of our theory. So the defense will say, and again, they already have, that we've cherry-picked the statements we show you, but we have not. We acknowledge these many references to self-defense in Mr. Duterte's speeches. But the evidence which is in our pre-confirmation brief, and some of which will lead today, overwhelmingly shows that those references to self-defense and following the law and to due process are nothing but nonsense. Keep in mind, as mayor, he created a death squad. A leader who creates, leads, arms, and funds a death squad is not interested in due process or following the law. Those empty utterances were simply Mr. Duterte, who's chosen not to be here today. Those were simply him acting as the former prosecutor, trying to build in some semblance of a defense, preparing for the day, should it ever come, as it now has, that he would be held to account. It was to give his lawyers something to say. But look at it over here, where I said don't shoot except in self-defense. The reality is that Mr. Duterte's message was clear, and it was understood by the perpetrators, and it was followed. That message was, commit murder at my direction, and I will protect you, I will pay you, I will promote you. And that's what happened. And I'll say this as well, Your Honors. For purposes of this confirmation hearing, disregard every speech ever made by Mr. Duterte. Throw them all out. There is still ample evidence of substantial grounds based on the other evidence which we have put on our list of evidence. And the evidence as a whole, when you weigh it together, will show that what my friend said is not correct, that Mr. Duterte intended for his subordinates to follow the law, and that he was interested, and that his speeches were simply bluster. I'll talk briefly now about the charges in the case. As the deputy prosecutor stated, we have 49 incidents, totaling 76 murder victims and 2 victims of attempted murder. And of course, those are expanded upon in our pretrial brief, or PCB. Now, as my friends said in the LRV, while there are countless victims who've experienced harm as a result of Mr. Duterte's crimes, we have focused the charges in this case to these 49 incidents and these number of victims in order to ensure that this trial can be expeditious and that it can be efficient. and that it won't go on for years and years. So these charged murders are emblematic. They're representative of Mr. Duterte's larger killing campaign. I was going to talk about the legal standard for today, but Your Honors explained it extremely clearly in the beginning of the introduction, so I won't go into it, other than to say, of course, the standard we have to meet is substantial grounds, which I am confident we will. The only thing I would add is that this stage of the proceedings, in addition to not being a mini trial or a trial before a trial, it's also not the time for the chamber to in-depth determine the credibility of witnesses. That can only properly be addressed at trial by the trial chamber when the witnesses are called to testify before the judges and their evidence is properly tested. And there I would point, Your Honors, to the Said confirmation decision, 9 December 2021, at paragraph 39. I'll move on now. We can go to the next slide, James. I'll talk a little bit about Mr. Duterte's background. He was born on the 28th of March, 1945, and he prides himself, or portrays himself at least, as someone who understands the problems of the poor. But as my friend stated, he actually comes from a very privileged family. His father was a lawyer, a politician, even a provincial governor. And as a young man, Mr. Duterte became a lawyer. He went to law school, practiced as a prosecutor in Davao City for almost a decade, from 1977 to 1986. And you find that in our pre-confirmation brief at paragraph 2. While he was a prosecutor, excuse me, he taught criminal law and procedure to police officers in Davao City. And despite this privileged background, despite his deep familiarity with the law and criminal law, Mr. Duterte embraced criminality from the beginning of his career. It's just one example. As a prosecutor, the evidence shows he taught police officers to plant evidence. We can go to the next slide, please, James. I won't read the whole slide out, Your Honors. This is tab 57, PHL OTP 000-15506 R01. But this witness with direct knowledge stated, quote, "He's like planting of evidence. It is necessary," and the he is Duterte. He called it necessary evil. So they said that there are times in police work that you have to do the necessary evil for the sake of the common good, end quote. And I think you'll see, Your Honors, that that's a theme that runs through Mr. Duterte's career. He's willing to do whatever he considers the necessary evil, either for the common good or for his political advancement, or both. And Mr. Duterte confirmed years later, in 2024, when being questioned under oath during a hearing in the Philippines House of Representatives, that planting evidence was his strategy as mayor. Now, at first he denied it in this hearing, but then he admitted to planting evidence in this exchange. If we can go to the next slide. This is tab 46.1, Your Honors. Chairperson, quote, so you really did plant evidence. Mr. Duterte's answer, well, that was part of the strategy as a mayor and as a leader of the law enforcement agency in the city, end quote. His privilege, his legal background makes this betrayal of the law and embrace of murder even more inexcusable. He knew, as a lawyer, as a former prosecutor, that his so-called crackdown on crime was a criminal attack on civilians of the Philippines. And overwhelmingly, the evidence shows, on poor civilians. The poorest of the poor were his victims. He knew his conduct, at its core, was criminal. And not only did Mr. Duterte clearly intend his criminality, he openly bragged about it. Right up until his arrest, and we'll get to that later, but right up until his arrest, he bragged about it. He thrives on a tough guy persona or image that he's tried to create for himself. My friend talked about him riding motorcycles. Well, one example I'll show you is from 2007 now, if we could play that, James. And I should say this is tab 18.
Elite, never losing an election.
So, riding a Harley Davidson, shooting a semi-automatic pistol, this is the image he's trying to create from the beginning. He likes to pose with weapons. If we can go to the next one, James. This is tab 80. And here in this photo, which was published in a newspaper, you can see Mr. Duterte holding an assault rifle. And I'll just note that we also see in this photo, to the immediate left of the photo, Ronald Bato de la Rosa. Bato is the nickname. And to Mr. Duterte's immediate right, Isidro La Peña. And we'll hear more about them later. Even days before he was arrested, 3 days before he was transferred to The Hague, this tough guy persona was on display again during a speech in Hong Kong. He brushed off the possibility of an ICC arrest warrant, and he referred to the ICC, quote, as motherfuckers who have been after him for a long time, end quote. This is him on March 9th, 2025, if you could play that, James. This is tab 136.
Sa totoo lang, baka ang balita ko may warrant daw ako pag... Hindi, totoo. Yung sa ICC or something, matagal na akong hinahabol ng mga
That's him 3 days before coming to The Hague. Of course, after arriving in the Hague, his lawyers very soon began arguing that Mr. Duterte was not fit enough for these proceedings. He wasn't physically or mentally fit enough to be put on trial or for his charges to be confirmed. But fortunately, a panel of 3 medical experts that Your Honors appointed found unanimously that he is. The point is that despite what the defense may say, here or to the press, Mr. Duterte is perfectly fine. He's able to attend the proceedings today. There is nothing stopping him except that he doesn't want to be here. He chose not to face the court, not to face the victims. There is no reason for him not to be here other than his request and choice. I'll move on now briefly to his time as mayor in Davao, Your Honors. If we can quickly bring up the map, James. There we see Davao in the south. We can zoom in. I don't think there's any dispute where Davao is. He was first elected mayor of Davao City in 1988 and served as mayor for more than 20 years, between 88 and 2016. And as the deputy prosecutor has noted, jurisdiction for this case is 1st November 2011, to 16 March 2019. We're limited to that jurisdiction. So that is the period we will concentrate on today, although, of course, before and after may be relevant. As mayor of Davao, Mr. Duterte promised a crackdown on crime. To quote, crackdown, end quote, on crime and drugs, Mr. Duterte created liquidation squads, death squads, made up both of Davao City police officers as well as non-police officers who were essentially hired hitmen, hired killers. And this system of his became known as the Davao model. The Davao model was murder, not being tough on crime legally, as my friend said. And you have to think, it's a little strange cracking down on crime by committing the crime of murder. Of course, Mr. Duterte did not commit these crimes alone. We discussed the co-perpetrators, including during the mayoral period, in our pre-confirmation brief, Your Honors. And you'll find that at paragraphs 8 to 23. I'll talk about just a few of them now, just to introduce them. First, if we go to the slide, thank you. Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who was a chief of the Davao City Police Office, or DCPO, from 2012 to 2013. Next, Vicente Danao, another police chief in Davao during the period. Next, Christopher Bongo, who was Mr. Duterte's aide, special assistant, an important advisor from 1998 to 2016 for the Davao period, and then continued later in the presidency. Mr. Dante Guiaran, regional director of the National Bureau of Investigation. And finally, Italiano Aguirre, who was a lawyer for Mr. Duterte and for some of the DDS members during the mayoral period. And Ms. Croft will discuss these co-perpetrators and their roles in more depth in her presentation, which will be tomorrow. Let me talk now a little bit about the structure of the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. And as we say in our brief, it's a pyramidal structure. If we go, James, to the next one. Again, this colloquially became known as the Davao Death Squad, and it had a hierarchical pyramid-like structure. At the very top, as mayor, Rodrigo Duterte. And as mayor, he had, of course, de jure control over the Davao police. And the evidence shows, para 34, we talk about this in our brief, he also had de facto control. Under him were co-perpetrators, some of whom I have mentioned. The co-perpetrators had different roles, but one of them was to relay orders and instructions down from Mr. Duterte to the DDS handlers, and also to relay reports back up to Mr. Duterte. So a typical chain of command. The instructions go down, the reports go up. And the handlers were responsible for the different death squads, or DDS members. And at the very bottom, the lowest rung, the DDS members who actually perpetrated the killings, who carried out physically the murders. And they were made up of both police officers, who were generally lower level police officers, as well as non-police persons who were hired. These members at the bottom were often recruited because they had a debt or owed something to Mr. Duterte or the police, and they could therefore be controlled. And those members at the very bottom were at risk themselves, because if they did not follow orders, or if they tried to leave the DDS, they could be tortured or killed or both. And there was evidence of that in this case. I'll talk now, just for a few moments, about the founding of the DDS, Duterte's death squad, the genesis of the death squads. One witness described his initiation into the DDS. He described it happening in 1988 at a dinner meeting in a hotel in Davao City. And this was a huge deal for this witness. I mean, it was almost unimaginable being invited to a dinner in a hotel in the center of Davao where he was going to meet the mayor. Mr. Duterte was present, and he openly told the new members of the death squad he was forming that their job was to kill criminals. If we can go to the next slide, James. This is tab 50, Your Honors. This is what the witness recalls of the meeting. Quote, he, Duterte, told us that your job here in the city would be to kill the drug pushers, the snatchers, and the holduppers. That's what our job is going to be, end quote. And in private, with his paid killers, Mr. Duterte didn't say anything about self-defense. He then provided these death squad members with guns and ammunition, and again, in a festive way, a basket was passed around filled with handguns, and the new members could pull one out, like getting a prize. So they would each have a weapon for their new job. It was a celebratory event for Mr. Duterte. The witness explained Mr. Duterte was happy at this dinner meeting. He was laughing, and he even sprayed a bottle of champagne to celebrate. That's at para 5 for our PCB. One witness recalls, we can go to the next slide, James, thank you, recalled of this event, quote, he, Duterte again, said it was like a baptismal, like a launching. He was very happy at that moment, end quote. That's tab 51. Mr. Duterte was very happy at the birth of the DDS. It's important to note, Your Honors, Mr. Duterte has freely admitted his role in the Davao Death Squad. He doesn't deny it. Well, now he does, but he did not before he came here. During an interview with a local news station in 2015, he admitted that he is the Davao Death Squad. And if we could play that now, please, James. This is tab
Ako daw ang death
11.
squad.
So how do you react to that?
Tinood. Tinood na.
They say I'm the death squad. True. That's true. You know, and Your Honors, in some ways, this case is not exactly complicated. That's not the only time Mr. Duterte admitted his role with the death squad. He repeated under oath that he had a death squad at the Blue Ribbon Committee in the Philippine Senate in 2024, about 10 years after the clip we just saw. However, in this exchange, he denied that the death squad included police officers in some type of apparent effort to protect them. This is tab 41.1, if you could bring it up, please. Mr. Duterte, under oath, quote, I can make the confession now if you want. I really took care of it. But please don't involve the police. They're the ones who suffer, sir. I have a death squad, but not the police. These were gangsters. He says it again In the same hearing, he confirms this admission. Go to the next one, please. Tab 41.1. The senator asks, quote, "So what the former president dropped earlier, that they have a death squad, was a bombshell. Whatever name it goes by, whether police or non-police. Because it looks like what we are investigating now is the instrument used for the war on drugs, which led to numerous extrajudicial killings. For the record, Mr. Chair." End quote. Mr. Duterte's response, quote, "You are correct, ma'am. You are absolutely right." End quote. It's not on a slide, but he also stated bluntly, same tab, 41.1, same hearing, quote, "My death squad, ma'am, is, of course, it is organized. That's all I can say," end quote. So that is 4 times, 3 of them under oath, that he admitted having a death squad in Davao, including saying he is the death squad. That's not hyperbole. That's not bluster. That's him telling the truth when he feels safe, and that he can bank on his continued impunity. Talk just for a few moments now, Your Honors, about how the Davao Death Squad operated under its architect, Mr. Duterte. Victims were usually targeted in one of 2 ways. Sometimes an informant would provide information on a target, and the handler would then get clearance from Mr. Duterte through one of the co-perpetrators in the pyramid we saw earlier to kill the target. Sometimes Mr. Duterte himself would give the target's name, would say who to kill, which would be communicated by one of the co-perpetrators to a handler, and then down to the DDS member tasked with actually carrying out the killing. But whichever way it took place, Mr. Duterte's clearance, his approval was required, his permission was required for DDS members to conduct these murders. And several witnesses confirmed that, and I'll go through them in a minute. But first, Your Honor, just to react to something my friend said in the previous session. This was at, I think, 12:22 onwards on the transcript. He stated to the effect, the prosecution couldn't even get one witness to admit they heard Rodrigo Duterte give an order to kill. Here's where it gets a little bit cute. At any time relevant to the charges or with respect to any of the incidents. So my friend didn't say the prosecution doesn't have any witness who heard Mr. Duterte give an order to kill. He's saying during this time period. I'd point Your Honors and my friend to PHL OTP 000-15517 at page 0002, lines 18 to 21, where a witness is asked, "Now, did you ever hear Sarah," this is Sarah Duterte, "give any instructions for killings to take place?" Witness, "Personally, no." Interviewer, "Okay." Witness, "But the father, of course, many times." But this was before 2011. I would suggest that doesn't make much difference. Going back to the confirmations of his clearance, if we could go to the next slide. Yes. This is tab 35, Your Honors. The witness stated, quote, "Only one person was making the decisions. You had to ask Duterte, because if we didn't make that request, if we didn't ask for authorization, we would be chased or we would be pursued." end quote. Another witness stated, if we go to the next one, please, tab 58, quote, "We cannot conduct a clearing or killing operations without his clearance." Speaking of Mr. Duterte, we called it clearance, end quote. Finally, on the next slide, perhaps the simplest, the witness recalled, quote, a different witness recalled, quote, "You cannot just kill anyone in Davao City without Duterte's approval. Otherwise, you will be charged," end quote. It's tab 117. In exchange for carrying out the murders as directed, the DDS members would be paid reward money. One witness stated, if we go to the next one, please, James, he recalled, this is tab 56, quote, "Every kill, the first reward money, to my recall, it was $10,000 per kill," end quote. And in addition to paying rewards for specific murders to the person who carried out the murder, Mr. Duterte also paid some of the DDS hitmen who were not police officers salaries by making them false employees of City Hall that he ran as mayor. These were so-called ghost employees. They got ID, they received salaries from the city of Davao, they were put on the books, but it was all a ruse because their only job was to kill. So it was Mr. Duterte using the city government and the apparatus to fund his death squad. He also, I'll just note quickly, provided death squad members with firearms, as I talked about earlier at the beginning of the DDS, but also with vehicles and ammunition so that they could carry out their crimes. We'll go to count one now, and I'll talk just a little bit about count one. And Mr. Jeremy will talk about counts 2 and 3 tomorrow. Count one is in relation to murders in and around Davao City during the mayoral period by the DDS. It encompasses 9 incidents of murder by Mr. Duterte's death squad of 19 victims in total. 3 of those 19 victims were children. I'll go to just one quick example. Incident 3 in our pre-confirmation brief, murders in Agdao Market. I'm just going to go through one of them. Your Honors, this is at paragraphs 91 to 92 of our pre-confirmation brief and page 36 of the notebook we passed around this morning. Incident 3 is about the murders, or what happened in Incident 3 is the murder of 3 people in that market on or about 4 December 2013. Before carrying out the murders, 3 DDS members who we'll see received instructions from their handler that there was a job to be done. And the victims in this crime were 3 alleged thieves. So we have 3 hitmen and 3 victims. The informant helped the DDS hitmen to locate the targets, the victims, who were at a shop in Agdao Market that day. And when the hitmen reached the shop, each one shot and killed one of the targets and murdered them in broad daylight. After the killing, the hitmen reported back to their handler up the pyramid chain that the job was done. And their handler, in this case, then informed Sonny Buenaventura, who at that time was one of Mr. Duterte's most trusted men. The reward for this incident, for these 3 murders, was 90,000 pesos total. That's at our brief at para 91. Now, what's interesting about this incident is that a few weeks later, after the murders, a video of Mr. Duterte watching the crime on CCTV was posted to YouTube. And I'll show that video, Your Honors, in a minute. But in the video, you'll see Mr. Duterte standing in the CCTV room looking at a bank of television screens. The video then zooms in on the CCTV footage of the crime, and you see 3 DDS members walking up the street in the market. You see them turn to the right, pull out their guns, their pistols, shoot the 3 victims who are off the screen, and then they walk and jog away, and they don't look very worried. And the video then zooms out, and you see different people running to see what has happened because they've heard the shots. Okay, can we play that, please?
Sa Makati, ganito din.
At most warning sa gather. Katong patay sa pagdaw. Eh, tanawin mo yun. Tanawin na doon kalakaw. Kanawa. Fiskal, pasin pambot ka sa imo. Mortero magiging klaro. Mulang kanawa. Kaya, bubada. May pagkita ni Esa Rosales. Kawan. Sabihin na lang ngayon. Kana. Lahat, tulog. Tanong reaksyon sa mga tao. Dito, patay na. Ito.
And you have to wonder if what my friend said is true, that Mr. Duterte is an honest mayor trying to solve crime. You have to wonder, Mr. Duterte portrayed himself as tough on crime, law and order enforcer. This triple murder was filmed. Mayor Duterte watched it himself. You can see the perpetrators shooting, committing the crime. Yet, Mr. Duterte, the former prosecutor, Mr. Tough on Crime, could not get this triple murder committed in a market in broad daylight with multiple eyewitnesses solved? Of course not, because it was his murder. And that brings me to the next point, which is clear. DDS members did not fear punishment because they were committed at Mr. Duterte's orders or direction. He authorized this Incident 3 killing and the others in Davao City. That's at our PCB, our brief, 71 to 72. And that's why, of course, the death squad members were not being arrested, worried about being arrested for the murders they carried out. And if we go to the next slide, James, one of them says very simply, quote, when asked if he's worried about being prosecuted for the killings he committed, his answer was, quote, no. As long as it has been cleared, I wouldn't worry, end quote. Tab 30. And it's highly understandable that the DDS members were not worried about being prosecuted for the murders they committed, because Mayor Duterte took pride in these killings. He was interviewed as mayor in late 2015, and a reporter put a question to him, asked him about a human rights group report which suggested that he had killed 700 people in Davao. I'll play the video, and we'll see his response. You'll also see, just before we play that, Mr. Christopher Bongo is in this video to Mr. Duterte's right. Look at the question, look at Mr. Duterte's answer.
700 no, pinatay ko. Nagkulang ho sila sa kwenta. Medyo mga 1,700.
no denial. Instead, he takes credit for 1,000 more killings. That isn't bluster. That's not hyperbole. That's the truth. I'll move on now, Your Honors, coming to the end, and talk a little bit about his road to the presidency. He saw that the political success of his Davao model, my friend said, he kept getting reelected. It was working. He saw that the political success of the Davao model of killing alleged criminals could be leveraged for more power, higher office. As I said in the beginning, that's exactly what he did. During his presidential campaign, he campaigned on a promise, a pledge to implement the common plan to kill alleged criminals nationwide if elected. I'm going to play a video now, Your Honors, that are just some of the speeches he made. It's a compilation of four. This is a tab 12 of 4 videos. It's about 4 minutes, but it gives an idea. These are not all the statements, but it gives an idea of the man who ran for president in 2016. If we can play that, James.
3 to 6 months, sabi ko, I will eradicate corruption, criminality, and drugs. If I become the president, I will order the military and the police to hunt down the drug lords, the big ones, and kill them. Tell me what my credentials to the presidency? Then I'd say, Davao is Exhibit A. Ngayon, dito sa Davao, hindi sabihin ito malinis itong bayan na to. It's not perfect. So that maybe I said, kung dating ako doon sa Pasig, I can promise you, not heaven, but I will promise you a comfortable life. Corruption has to stop. Criminality has to stop. Either makuha ko ang gusto ko or you perish. Magprangkahan na lang tayo. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Patayan yan.
I promise you, hindi naman believe yung ibang tao. Sabi ko, I would stop drugs and crime, criminality in 3 to 6 months. That's too ambitious. My God, subukan ninyo ako. That's what I told the Davao criminals before. Pinapatawag ko pa, do you want to go out of the city? Gusto mong pumunta ng Manila, maganda ang buhay doon. Doon ka na lang, gusto mo? Di, yung hindi naniwala, di patay. Anong pag-usapan natin dyan? Bakit para sa akin? Did I do it for my own? For my own benefit? To enrich myself? What does the life of a criminal have to do with your pocket? Nabi ko lang, I want a peaceful city. Umalis kayo, pag hindi, papatayin ko talaga kayo. Di, pinatay ko. Huwag na tayo magtagot pa. Papagaprank ka na lang. Ngayon ako, I have this. Kung ako ang presidente, huwag muna kayo mag-demonstrate. Give me time. Give me time kasi naghirit talaga ako. At sa kung gusto naman siya, hindi, talagang gagawin ko. Hihirit ako. Ang sabi ko sa military pati police, only criminals, drug-related offenses. I will tell the police and the military, go out and kill them. Period. Alam naman nila.
Alam mo ito, pag ako ang na-presidente, I would warn you, I do not covet the position. Pag na-presidente ako, magtago na kayo. Yung 1,000 nan, it would reach 50,000. I would kill all you making the life of the Filipino miserable. Papatayin ko talaga kayo. Kasi manalo ako dahil nga yung breakdown sa law and order. I do not want to commit a crime. But if by chance, per chance, God would place me there, magbantay kayo, kasi itong 1,000 na ito maging 100,000. Diyan mo makita, tataba yung isda dyan sa Manila Bay. Diyan ko kayo itapon. I do not want to be president. I do not want to kill people. So do not elect me as president.
If I become the president, I will order the military and
3
the
to 6
police.
months.
Oops. Sorry. So, if I become the president, I will order the military and the police to hunt down the drug lords, the big ones, and kill them. Tell me, what is my credentials to the presidency? Then I'll say, Davao is Exhibit A. Either I get what I want or you perish. Let's be straightforward. What does that mean? That means killings. You should get out. If not, I will really kill you. So I killed them. Let's not play hide and seek anymore. Let's just be frank. I will tell the police and the military, go out and kill them, period. I will really kill you. I do not want to kill people, so do not elect me as president. That's the man before you for this hearing, even if he's not in court today. He repeatedly promised to kill people, his own people, if elected president. He said it, he did it, that's who he is. He won the election, became president on 30 June 2016, and did exactly as he said he would. He murdered thousands of people by taking the Davao model nationwide. I'm finished, Your Honor, and perhaps I would suggest that the next presentation start tomorrow, if you don't mind, because we only have 5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le procureur, pour votre présentation et votre suggestion. Vous pensez que nous arrivons au terme de cette première journée d'audience. Je remercie tous les partis et les participants, ainsi que nos interprètes, le greffe, le personnel technique et tous ceux qui ont permis à cette audience à se dérouler. L'audience est élevée, elle va se dérouler demain selon notre programme qui est connu. À demain. Merci beaucoup.
All rise, veuillez vous lever.